This is the Sunday stream opening song because the other song is copyrighted. La 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 la. Oh look, here comes Dog Cat Fox.
Hi, Sky.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday stream. The stream I do on Sundays because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Sunday morning. I'm sure it's beautiful somewhere. It's kind of gray and dingy out right now, but hey, them's the breaks. Ah, yes, another weekend slowly coming to a close, and with it, a new revelation. A new book, published just in July of this year, and we get a reading and a presentation from its author. And so we all know that the torch of division has not faded, as we will be reviewing, or at least hearing the author review for us, The White Allies Handbook. 4 weeks to join the racial justice fight for black women. I don't know if there's like a time clock in the book. As soon as you open up the book, you only have 4 weeks to finish it, or 4 weeks to enact whatever's... I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out one way or the other. But before we get into all that, excitement. Who is joining me on this beautiful Sunday morning? Brett Ide, good morning. Somnambular Nation, Rotten Corpse, Arc 210, Keever Dam, Ebony Williams, Chicago Mike, Mike Savage, Non-Vitae Rex, J 2022, Tall Person, Roan Harishin, or Rone Harishin. I don't know. I'm trying. Jeanette E. Hellis, Ryan R., K. Show, Shadowclaw, Scanner Daftly, Pissed Off Shih Tzu, X Bubba Hotep, No Name, Spittlebuggies, Enigma 500. Is that like a, is that like an F1 race or something? The Enigma 500. You'll never know who wins. The cars aren't marked. The Enigma 500. I don't know. Anyway, yes, so without knowing anything else about the book so far, just the implications of the title, as with so many other instances of being told about allyship, or insert racial and or gender demographic descriptor allyship. Obviously, there is a class of people who can help, and then there's a class of people who need help. And the only thing you need to know to distinguish one from the other, as in this book title suggests, is skin color. Isn't that just pleasant? But yeah, so we're going to review this. This might be, everyone, this might be the new white fragility. Who knows? Or the new how to be anti-racist. I'm still always looking out for that next great handbook for someone to put on their coffee table to show off how righteous and enlightened they are. This might be it. I guess we'll find out. Also, please direct your attention to the top of the chat box for the GoFundMe links provided by Keeverdam for our friends Shady Grin, Angry Illinoisian, and his kitten. If you guys have a couple of bucks to spare, their friends, and their family could certainly use your help. So thank you for that. And let's see. Oh, I wanted to make sure I got this. You had it right the first try. Much appreciated. And new to your channel. Started watching from your She-Hulk reviews. Aha! Well, welcome to the channel. I have a vast library of stuff that has nothing to do with She-Hulk, if you can believe it. I hope you enjoy it. So, which one was my first try? Roan? I think it was Roan Harishin. Roan Harishin? Okay, I'm gonna... until I'm corrected otherwise. Blue-Eyed Scream 76, good morning. Excuse me. I gotta have my morning water here, too. Wet my palate, as it were, before I start speaking too much. And anyway, Ali, good morning. But with all that, let's get into the book report from... What is her name again? Leisha Michelle. Or Licia Michelle? I'm not quite sure. I have cut out the first 6 minutes or so of this presentation because it was just welcome to our bookstore and here are oncoming events and things like that. And the whole thing runs just under an hour. We will go for an hour and a half in real time unless there is some reason to go further and or there's some reason to do a part 2. Now, one warning. This was recorded on a potato camera. The visuals aren't really that important all around, but the audio is, and the audio is legible. It's a little tinny. I did my best to enhance it. It should be fine. If it gets to the point where it's either, incoherent or just nails on chalkboard for some reason, I'll figure something out, or we'll just stop early. I did spot check different various points in the audio to see how the sound quality was, and as far as I could tell, it was reasonable. So, you guys tell me. I'll start off with a few seconds for a sound test, and then we will begin.
Alicia Michelle is a writer, librarian, educator, activist, and founder of Real Talk, Women of Color and Allies for Racial Justice and Anti-Oppression. Wow,
that's a long introduction for was that a podcast or something? You guys hear that okay? Did that come out all right? Let me know. Let's see. Roan like prone minus the P. Gotcha. Okay, I will try to remember. Let's see. Oh, TEDx talk about NF trees. Yes, NF trees. Boy, oh boy. Man, yeah. I got to do a follow-up on that at some point. See how that business eventually died out. Sounds good, says Noah Essentio. Simon Willikins, an hour and a half from now will be a good time for me to have lunch. Okay, well, I'll get to it then. Let's get into the book report.
She has been a librarian for over 15 years, working in both universities and public libraries, and has a BA in journalism from Eastern Illinois University and a Master's of Library and Information Sciences degree from San Jose State University.
Okay, so she's a professional librarian, but she wrote a book on racial. Okay.
Lives in Southern Illinois and can be found on Twitter at Alicia Michelle 11.
Okay. See, I would have expected something like some kind of sociology degree. Something in I don't know, women's studies or whatever other categories of degrees they have now for social justice. Public health, perhaps, something like that.
Would you all please help me in warmly welcoming Alicia Michelle for that?
Yay!
I'm so happy to be here. I just moved back to the area. I was in New Orleans, and I was like, that's not first. So I came back to Southern Illinois.
Please tell me you're going to speak up.
So what I hope to accomplish in this talk is, if you're already an ally, I want to give you some tips on how to be more effective.
Oh, if I'm already an ally, I can get some more tips. Okay, well, what qualifies me as an ally? Do I have to have a certification process or something? I don't know. Yeah, already... I swear the audio gets better. Like she speaks up more or something, because I checked in the middle of the talk just for a couple of seconds to make sure, so... Holy cats! Brett-eyed! Once again, thank you so much. Not able to stay long, but here, gotta go try and get a car. Well, best of luck on getting the car. Thank you. Thank you so much for your continued generosity, Brett. I don't know what else to say except thank you, and that I will endeavor to continue doing what I'm doing and pay it forward as best as I can. Thank you so much. Let's see. All right, so... might need to kill my background music. That's probably a good idea. All right, I will kill the background music for the time being, and just let it go. Okay.
If you're thinking about being an ally and kind of haven't started yet, I want to get you going. So that's the point of what we're going to talk about today. How are you going to be successful? How are you going to be effective? How are you going to be action-based? All of that.
How am I going to be action-based as an ally? Okay, how can I be effective? How can I improve? All right. But as a white ally. But then the card on the screen says, how do you become a successful anti-racist ally? I'm getting a lot of mixed signals here.
Let's start. She already did that part, so let's skip that. Okay, so before I get into the different steps that I think are important for you, keep in mind a couple of things. Allyship is always timely. And I say this because how many of us heard when we had Obama as president that racism was all but over?
I never heard, this is the thing, I've heard this said before. I never heard anyone seriously say that because Obama was elected president that quote-unquote racism is over. I'm curious to know if anyone with any credibility ever actually said that with any seriousness. I'm told it was said. I never even thought or heard it said commonly amongst anybody I knew or otherwise. So I'm curious to know if that's actually true or if that's just something people say now as though as some kind of rejoinder to people who's like, oh, racism is dead. Like, oh, what? Not when you're making books called White Allyship or whatever.
I don't think one black person said that, but I heard a lot of white people.
You just said it. You just continued that notion that somebody said it. But again, I don't. Did anybody really commonly or seriously say that? And I know I'm dwelling on this, but I've heard this over and over again over the years, and it never stuck with me as something that was ever seriously considered.
Allyship means action. I'll get into this a little bit more later, but consider that it doesn't really matter how many books you read. You can read every book on racial justice. If you never open your mouth, you're part of the problem.
I can read all the books, but if I never open my mouth, I'm part of the problem. All right, what should I open my mouth for?
Right. Allyship and anti-racism is never ending. If you decide, if you do decide to be an ally to the day you die, is what I expect you to do it.
Hey, it's like the mafia. You know, you can never really leave. Once you're an ally, you're pretty much stuck in forever.
It's going to be every day until you die. So this is step one. We have 7 steps I'm going to help you with. So step 1, you need to learn about anti-racism work. And this is a really huge part. I did not know until I moved back to St. Louis just how activist-based this city is. It is amazing. So if you have not joined local organizations here, please do. Find some that are led by Black people, specifically Black women.
Oh, okay. Find some organizations led by Black people, specifically Black women. That alone qualifies them for whatever they're doing in their organizations. That's what I should be looking for in deciding what organizations to support. All right, so lesson number 1, apply a racial and or gender filter to the leadership of organizations that you will join. Okay.
Also take advantage of the fact that most of us have online presences. So
Really?
if we're not local to you, find somebody online that you can listen to and find several.
As long as they fit within the 2 categories you described, right?
I say that because while I would love for you to follow me on Twitter and listen to all my ranting on Twitter, that's great. But there are other people who will have other opinions, other backgrounds, cultures, experiences. You want to have a variety. You know, we're not a monolith. So
You want to have a variety. We're not a monolith, but by the way, find an organization run by these specific types of people. Because that's how you'll know they're the good organizations to join. Also, white allies. But no monolithing here. Okay.
So I can't speak for every Black woman, and they can't all speak for me.
Are you sure about that?
So I said join a racial justice group. So you're going to benefit from spaces led by Black women. I know that there are large organizations that are white-led, and they specifically do that because they don't want to have us do all the labor, which I get.
Oh, so, wait. Okay, so organizations that are quote-unquote white-led are only white-led because they feel sorry for people like you doing all the labor. It's essentially an exercise in pity? Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting.
But the challenge with that is, how are they going to tell my story in the most accurate way?
Well, why would they tell your story? Because not all Black women speak for you, and you don't speak for all Black women. If it was led by someone who looked like you, how could they possibly tell your story in your way? And didn't you just tell us that we're supposed to, gain insight from a variety of different people and lived experiences? Why? And how does your story represent anyone other than yourself? Boy, we're not even 3 minutes or 4 minutes into this thing. I'm getting a lot of mixed signals here.
So while I want you to join organizations like Surge, because I think that they're good, make sure that you're supplementing with organizations led by Black women, because you're going to need all of that experience to be effective.
all of that experience. All of the experience of people who look like you telling your story. Yeah, sounds like a grand variety.
Stacey Abrams.
Is she still governor? Or governor in exile or something?
Yes, she's amazing.
Is she amazing? Are you sure she's amazing? Okay.
So I want you to support Black women in leadership positions. And I know when we say that.
Why don't you say, I want you to support Stacey Abrams? Okay? Now, not living in Georgia, I don't have any particular, stake in Stacey Abrams' political career, elsewise or otherwise. But just reading the news stories over the course of Lords of the Night and elsewise, I'm not a big fan of Stacey Abrams. She seems like a hypocrite. A little bit of a hypocrite. Complaining about how she didn't win the election and then demonizing people who questioned the 2020 election and, anyway, that aside, why don't you focus on the individual? I know why you don't, because you don't value the individual so much as the aesthetic, at least so far as you've shown. But you bring up a picture of Stacey Abrams and then you say, support Black women leaders. Nothing about their personal merits, not their accomplishments, their stances, or otherwise. As an individual, no. As long as the aesthetic pleases you, then that is a note in their favor. And then you talk about the joking about how racism is dead. No. I concede. Racism is not dead. It certainly is not. And you're proving that with every sentence.
That we typically think, politics is what it is. Not all the time. So in St. Louis, there are lots of Black women who have small businesses.
In St. Louis, just in case you missed that, in St. Louis, there are lots of Black women who have small businesses. Uh-huh.
How many of you are supporting those businesses?
Oh, I don't know. Supporting how? And if I'm not, is that the litmus test for my morals or something?
Think about the services that you use all the time and seek out someone local who is doing that.
Seek out someone local who's doing that as long as they're a Black woman? Is that it?
And support them. The next phase of that is telling all your friends that you're supporting them.
Oh, so brag to your friends, look how good I am. Oh, what a good boy am I. Or giving my money specifically to businesses based on the color and gender of the person running it. Okay. Huh. If you just kind of switch out and reverse the whole thing, like if I said, I'm making sure to support the white business owners in my area, how would that sound to you? What would you say of such a person who made that the decision point for where they were going to put their money? Would that sound reasonable to you?
That's how they're going to be successful. The pandemic really did a number on minority businesses, specifically Black-owned businesses in the city. A lot of them went under.
Oh, really? Businesses in general did not suffer economically under the pandemic, but in particular, why? Why did specifically Black women-led businesses go under during the pandemic? Of all the other kinds of businesses led by all different kinds of people.
So people are now trying to regroup and get those businesses going again.
Uh-huh.
So this is where put your money where your mouth is. Support those businesses, support those services. If you can't find somebody local that does something that you really, really want to support, go online and find somebody, who's doing it.
As long as they look the part, right?
In your racial justice groups, what's really nice is that most people in there will have great suggestions for you on who you can support and why. There are Black women running, all kinds of businesses now. So we really do need people to step up and really support those businesses and give them free advertising. Post it somewhere on your social media that you use them.
That you use them. That's an interesting way of putting it.
Support Black female-led business. I mentioned that. So as far as political candidates, we already know that you can canvass if you're local, which is amazing. But if you're not local, what can you do? You can do the postcards. You can still text bank. You can still phone bank. I know people who do that every election, no matter where they live, they'll do it, everywhere. Yes, it's time consuming, but again, we're coming up on some really, really important elections. So we really have to pay attention to what's going on and realize that if we don't win some of these elections, what we think is bad now is just going to get worse.
What do you mean by we? Who's we in this instance? Because I could assume in most other contexts you're talking about, given the individual you have up on the screen there, I would assume Democrats, right? Except you're not talking about Democrats. You haven't mentioned a particular political party. You're winnowing everything down to race and then gender. So who is we? And what exactly is the known, commonly accepted political stance of this we you speak of?
So, we have to step up and really help these candidates. The last one is really near and dear to my heart because I had such a hard time working corporate America. And I experienced some really horrendous racism when I was working there.
Oh, you mean like, doing away with anybody else's personal merits and just focusing on their skin color and their genitals? That kind of discrimination, that kind of racism? Oh, okay.
And misogyny, and basically I just had to suck it up until I could leave.
Oh, no misandry going on here at all. No, okay.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
So the reason that I say work from inside your organization is
because a grassroots stealth campaign can have an effective outcome. Work within your organization to do what?
No matter what your role is there, if you see something, as a white person, it's going to be safer for you to speak up than for me to speak up.
Really? It's going to be safer for me to speak up than for you to speak up simply on the basis... Why? What is the inherent or expected consequence of you speaking up versus a white person speaking up? I'm just curious to know. And about what in particular?
And that's really unfortunate. That's just what it is.
Okay.
I worked in a communications department of a mutual funds company, and our entire department was liberal.
Our entire department was liberal. What you did so there's a political test, or did you poll everybody to see what their political leanings were? What do you mean by liberal?
The person harassing me was liberal.
Wait, the person harassing you was liberal? Okay, so that means that everybody in your department was potentially poisoned? What? Or are you... Wait, are you saying that a person who declares themselves and politically, voting-wise, leans liberal might not be a perfect person all by itself? What? Okay.
Oh, he's a white guy.
A white guy who was liberal who harassed you? Well, how did he harass you? What did he do?
Everyone knew.
Everyone knew what? That he was white? Or that he was liberal? Or that he harassed you? How did he harass you?
No one ever spoke up.
No one ever spoke up. How did he harass you? What did he do? What did he say?
And so I ended up just leaving, but I was there for 7 years dealing with that. So
Wait, you were there for 7 years. This guy, quote unquote, harasses you or does something which you won't say. Nobody said anything. Did no one say anything because you took something that was innocuous and blew it out of proportion? It wasn't a microaggression by any chance, was it? Why won't you say what it was? Or give some kind of context to it. Okay.
So, that's a huge example.
No, you didn't give an example at all. All you said is that you threw away a 7-year career at a mutual fund company because one guy in your department said or did something which you won't even, roughly describe, and then nobody said anything. And you didn't say anything. You didn't go to HR. You didn't try to rectify the situation yourself. So you just left. Okay.
But also consider all those little kind of, we're talking about microaggressions out.
Oh, microaggressions! Oh, I was right. Well, now I'm not right, but at least she brought it up. Tell me about a microaggression. Was that what that guy did? He said something that you took offense to?
We deal with in the workplace that you're kind of like, was that really racism? I don't know.
Was that really racism? I'm going to decide yes. Now I'm going to quit.
Oh, If I tell you that it was, it was.
If you tell me it was racism, then it was. Oh, okay. So you're the arbiter of other people's ambiguous intent. Okay.
And it's really hard for us to speak up and even tell you that we're having those experiences. So it's up to you to pay attention in those spaces. So at work, if you're out and about somewhere and you notice that something's just not quite right with the conversation going on with a Black person and a white person, just pay attention.
If I decide that something's not quite right between a white person and a Black person, if I decide, okay, so I'm going to rob you, in this example, of your own agency and police how people are speaking to you, because obviously you cannot either speak for yourself, stand up for yourself, or manage your own conversations. Okay, so I need to see you, reflexively, as a probable victim of this other person's dialogue because of their race and because of your race. Okay.
And you can step in. We want you to step in those conversations.
Oh, you want me to interrupt your conversations to protect you? Okay, I can't imagine how that's going to go in real life.
Because your white skin, your privilege is going to get you way further than if I raise my voice and say something. I might go to jail or worse.
You might go to jail. Oh, okay. Okay, so you believe in white power because white skin, bestows more power, more safety, etc. Okay, in a conversation between you and a white person. And if I say the exact same thing and in the same tone you would have, I won't go to jail, but you will. Okay.
So that's just part of the work.
Hmm.
So step 3, take advantage of your white accountability partners. And this is something that is just near and dear to my heart because I talk a lot about this in my Facebook group. My Facebook group right now has about 1,500 people. The majority of us are women of color. But the white women in there have accountability groups and accountability partners. So
accountability groups and accountability partners. Is it like AA or something? You have to have a sponsor so you don't step outside the lines? What? I'm fascinated now. What is an accountability group for the white women?
No one's left on their own. And the reason that is good is because, it's really disappointing when I come across people who are super gung-ho about doing work and they just drop off. They're like, I'm just tired of doing it. I'm just worn out. I'm like, wow, really? Because I'm more worn out.
Yes, the emotional labor I put in every day to fight this battle. How dare you take a break? You must always be on, fighting the battle for social and racial justice. Because I'm exhausted all the time. Obviously, can't you tell by the color of my skin? Thank you, Ms. Tickletrunk. Repeat after me. Condescending is caring. Yeah, you got to put everybody in their place. Everybody has to know the hierarchy, the pecking order, as it were. Good gravy.
And it's disappointing when they've come really far and they just realize that they'd just rather be with their friends and their families and, that they've done what they can do and they're kind of over it at this point.
Does that sound cultish to anybody else? Like you have to put this work first and foremost in your life. Friends, family, your personal wants, needs, and desires. Those all are at best a secondary consideration to the work. You just want to spend time with your friends and your family. Aren't you a true believer or not? Okay. I wonder what our speaker does in her spare time. Oh, wait, no, she doesn't have any spare time. All she's doing is the work. Right?
Like I said, it's a lifelong commitment. That's what it should be.
Uh-huh.
So one of the reasons that I tell people to have an accountability partner, affinity group, something you want to keep going with the ally work. There'll be times you will be so incredibly unhappy with how things are going. There'll be most of the time.
Boy, you make it sound like such an attractive activity. You're going to be exhausted. You're going to think it's going terrible most of the time. We need an accountability partner. You need to be in an affinity group. Boy, oh boy.
You'll be so upset and so mad about things. You have to have somebody to talk to. That's why you have a partner or a group, because You can role play those situations, figure out what went wrong. If something happened when you were out and you had to confront somebody, you want to be able to kind of discuss that with someone else, not me necessarily, but with another white person.
Right, because only another white person can better advise me, the white person, on how best to fight for racial justice, which is entirely, apparently, what you need us to do for you, because you can't do it because you're already doing it all day, every day, and you can't be bothered with... Okay.
These are all learning experiences, even if it's something that happened and went really badly. Still a learning experience that you're going to need other people to talk to.
As long as they are white, you can't mix the races in this kind of support and accountability. Of course, you don't call it support, you call it accountability. Like, accountability for what? What is straying off the path look like for a white ally? What does a white ally in the affinity group need to know and to do to rein someone in from acting incorrectly as a white ally? Thank you, Ms. Tickletrunk. She just described why Twitter is an echo chamber. Yeah. I mean, unless you start, following people who you think you will disagree with on a regular basis and actually pay attention to such things. But yeah. Like, you find your own little support group, you find your own little, like, closed circuit of, reciprocating voices and opinions and ideas that all make you feel good. And you never, ever have to leave that bubble if you don't want to. All right, so we're going to make small, little, cloistered echo chambers based on skin color inside these organizations that have one purpose. And if you do anything that is not either to that purpose, or if you start feeling like you're getting tired of fighting the good fight, they will hold you accountable and keep you in line. This sounds like such a pleasant endeavor, doesn't it?
One of the other reasons that I want you to have an accountability partner or some kind of group to talk to is anytime that you make a mistake, and when you're doing ally work, you're going to make a ton of mistakes, and that's okay. I expect that. But you need to unpack them and figure out where you went wrong, and then you do it better the next time.
Yes, that's usually how learning works. But I would love for her to give us an example of a mistake. One of her white cadre who acted incorrectly and how they addressed that mistake. I'd love to know what does a mistake look like when it comes to white allyship accountability.
It's just practice. You're doing things, you're putting yourself out there, being uncomfortable, you're screwing up a lot, but you're making progress every time. And then another thing that's really important, I'll mention this again later, is all those mistakes that you make are stories for somebody else who you're trying to help and educate.
Oh, do you mean to tell me that experiences I have in life that are applicable to other people's lives I could conceivably pass on as advice? What a concept. Thank you, Roan Harushin. I'm sorry, miss. I'm a weeb. We don't care. Well, no. I mean, but what's your skin tone, though? I mean, you could pass. You could pass for one of her support group, affinity group, accountability group, white underlings, maybe. From a distance. From a distance. Okay.
You don't want to ever come across as someone who has never made a mistake in ally work. That shouldn't be the case. Another reason that you need to have an accountability partner or an affinity group is because you have to call people out.
What?
So that's a huge part of the work. It's really uncomfortable, but it's part of your job. If you witness one of your affinity partners say something, do something racist, you have to call them in.
If I witness one of my affinity partners say or do something racist, okay, are we back to the same sort of assessment process of, did what they say, was that racist? Okay, because the rule was, if you say it was racist, then it was racist when it comes to microaggressions. Now, what does a white person do if they think they hear something racist? How can they be the correct decision maker or judge of whether or not it was racist when they're white? I mean, they would be the last people to be able to tell that correctly, right? Because they're surrounded by racism every day. It's the air that they breathe, right? It's the universal constant. They can't possibly denote between racism and not racism without someone to guide them. So how is a white affinity group going to effectively tell what is or is not racist? Unless the default position is, if I think it's racist, we'll just say that it's racist to play it safe, right? Because even if we're wrong, we're doing the right thing by demonizing someone for something they said or did that I've decided sounds a bit too far outside the lines set by our leaders. Is that how that works? I'm just trying to understand the rules I've been given so far.
And what you do is you work through what they said or what they did, why it was wrong. Have somebody else help you if you're not comfortable. At the end of that discussion, they should have a very clear idea of where they misstepped.
Do you have an example? I mean, just one active example, or just a hypothetical example. You know, Bob said this, and Jane understood that this was racist because whatever. It's something. I mean, you must have just a multitude of examples throughout your life, if not your professional librarian career in this space, right?
Let's say if it's something that was said to me and they actually know me.
Such as?
What would happen in that case is that they would actually formulate an apology with an explanation as to clearly what they did wrong, so I know.
Wait. Someone says something to you, and then they have to formulate an apology so that you would know that they said the thing, or that they're sorry for saying... Wait. I'm hesitant to back up too much here because the length of the video, every click takes me back like a minute. I just want to hear that again, though. Let me just... Okay.
Let's say if it's something that was said to me and...
All right, something that was said to you. All right, so something is said to you.
They actually know me.
Yeah.
What would happen in that case is that they would actually formulate an apology with an explanation as to clearly what they did wrong, so I know.
Okay, so someone says something to you that is wrong, racist, whatever, and then what? They themselves or within the affinity group, they then have to go back, formulate a formal apology, and then tell you why it was wrong so that you'll know? This is getting more bizarre as time goes on.
You know, I'm not saying that the apology is going to be 100%, I feel better now, but it's an educational experience for you, but I'm going to feel a little bit better. At least you thought about it.
Okay. I know I'm going to keep asking for it. I know I'm not going to get it. I'd love to hear an example of this.
You know, and we don't get that very often, honestly. Most of the time it's like, oh, I didn't mean it. I didn't intend that, but that doesn't matter because...
Oh, it doesn't matter. Intention doesn't matter. If I say something and you decide to take offense, I'm still held accountable for your effort of taking offense. Right, okay.
The impact of your words are always going to be way more important than those intentions.
The impact of your words are going to be way more important than their intentions. Okay, so if you make the decision to feel upset over something that I said that possessed no intention of offense or upset, your feelings are more important than my intention. Okay.
The last one is one that I talk about a lot. Please don't partner with your mom or your dad or your cousin or your best friend.
Why not?
Don't do that.
Why can't I?
I say that because how effective are you going to be calling out your mom? I'm not saying you're not going to have that conversation because you will, but that person should not be your accountability partner.
It's AA. It is AA. You've got sponsors here. Your accountability partner, your personal police officer of dialogue, vocabulary, action. Don't make it your mom. Don't make it your dad. We can't let anybody, like, off the hook here. And, of course, you're not going to have that conversation with your mom. Yeah, these conversations don't come up over family dinner. There haven't been, like, fights and falling outs and everything else over Thanksgiving about everybody trying to accuse the other one of being more righteous than the other on any particular subject. No. But, okay. Can't make my accountability partner my mom. It's got to be some stranger. It's got to be somebody who's like a separate third party, except for the fact that they're white. I mean, obviously that is the great unifier of such a relationship, first and foremost. But aside from the fact that they're white, they have to be someone who's not directly connected to me. Okay.
There's going to be too much emotion. Your accountability partner you can be someone who is kind of a friend, but you don't want to have those emotional ties because you're going to be so worried about upsetting them.
Am I wrong in saying this sounds just like some kind of Scientology, Jonestown kind of arrangement? You have to have your buddy, but your buddy has to be your police officer, your warden in this whole thing?
And hurting their feelings, that the conversations you're having that should be really educational are going to be like, I don't know if I can say this. I don't know if I can say these things. I don't know. I don't want to hurt their feelings. That should never be part of it.
Yeah, never consider the feelings of another person in what you're going to say to one another, but always consider my feelings in anything you might say to me. I think, again, Ms. Tickletrunk, here late. Did she cover audits for thetans yet? Yeah. I'm waiting for the E meters to come up, or maybe it's like the R meters for racism or something. And how much racism is possessed within your body right now? Hold these two cans, I'll tell you.
It always should be, here's what you did, here's some resources to help you, let's talk about it, let's work through it, let's do role play, let's figure out how you can do it better the next time. That whole process is near impossible with someone that you love. It's just not going to happen. Those people will probably yell at you or cry. So that's why you don't want to have to harness with them. So step 4, accept criticism without defensiveness. And again,
accept criticism without defensiveness. I have to wonder, what would happen if our speaker was given some honest, constructive criticism about anything regarding herself, her job performance, her attitude, whatever? I really have to wonder if anything that came her way, she wouldn't immediately or reflexively, or at least ponder, classifying as being racist and or sexist before actually considering whether or not that criticism is valuable. I really have to wonder. She's made me have to wonder this.
This is a really difficult thing to do for all of us.
Yes.
You get defensive immediately when someone criticizes you.
Mm-hmm.
I would say one of the best ways to kind of get past that, keep your eye on the prize. Your goal is to be a better ally. So you can be defensive, just don't say you're being defensive. Like, just don't say anything.
Conceal your feelings. Obscure what you're thinking. Keep in any of your initial reactions to being accused of something. Say nothing. When are you going to talk? Are you going to mention white fragility? Because here's the problem. If you say white fragility, technically you're advertising someone else's book on this same subject. So are you going to use the phrase that Robin DiAngelo has so brilliantly planted her flag in?
Just listen to what that person is saying. You can ask questions like, okay, what did you mean when you said that I was demonstrating a microaggression? You can ask questions like that.
What did you mean when you said I was demonstrating a microaggression? I can ask that question. Okay, so if somebody accuses me of having used a microaggression, again, a word, a phrase, or an action that may or may not actually carry with it the intent of offense, but someone has determined to be offended by. But I'm allowed to ask that question if someone accuses me of having used a microaggression. Okay.
That clarify what they're saying, but you don't want to say, well, I said I was sorry and I didn't mean it.
Why wouldn't that be? Well, first off, if you didn't mean it, you don't have anything to apologize for. If someone decided to take offense to something you said that had absolutely no intention behind it whatsoever, you don't have to apologize for that. Because then if you say something like, I'm sorry you feel that way, now it's not really an apology. And you shouldn't have to apologize to begin with. You say, that is not at all what I intended for you to take from that. And if you have to explain it to that person, obviously then you're probably white-splaining or something. But, okay, anyway.
None of that matters. That's just a way for you to stop having the conversation that we're having in that moment because you're getting uncomfortable.
Yeah, and if I don't want to engage in that conversation with you, I'm not required to. If I get accused of having done something wrong, when I know in my heart of hearts I did no such thing, and you're just trying to accuse me of something I didn't do, I don't have to stand there and take it just because you want to vilify me. I'm not required to do that. But I suppose if I've given myself over to your racial justice organization, if I have agreed to have an accountability partner and be part of an affinity group, then maybe I really have left all of my personal agency and all of my freedoms at the door and just let myself over to this cult.
So the other thing that I tell people is you need to listen more and talk less.
Oh, yeah, well, okay. I'll confess. I'm talking too much. I need to listen. I need to stop. I need to stop analyzing the things that you're saying by listening to them and then trying to, deconstruct them bit by bit. And I need to talk less. Okay, listen more, talk less. Right. This is about silence. This is about being seen and not heard as a white ally. Right. If you feel defensive, just don't say you're feeling defensive. Just be quiet. Be quiet and listen to your betters. Right? And accept criticism. Consume criticism. Do not challenge criticism.
You're called out and you're doing this the whole time. You're just talking over that person and you're getting upset. There's no education going on. You're frustrated. They're frustrated.
Obviously, the person criticizing me is the more highly educated one because they know how I really think and I just need to sit there and take it. Okay. So you need to have an agreement that when you're called in or called out that you listen. Again, you can ask questions, but you should not be the person talking the most in that situation. You should be talking very little. Right, yes. The accused gets no defense. They just have to take the accusation, absorb it, accept it, synthesize it into their personality. No pushback. No pushback. No. The Grand Inquisitor gets the floor in all things.
The tone policing thing, I get tone policed all the time.
Oh, wow. Okay. What are accountability partners there for? What are affinity groups there for? What have you just been telling us? You're not going to start downplaying tone policing, are you? It seems to be part and parcel with your whole setup.
By white people.
Oh, by white people. Oh, okay. Well, when white people are tone policing other white people, is that okay then?
It's all the time because they'll say to me, because I'm very direct when I call out racism. I'm not. I don't think I'm rude, but I am very.
You don't think you're rude. Well, how much self-reflection have you gone through on that point? You don't think you're rude? Well, what if you are? If someone told you that you were, would you accept their opinion, or would it first depend on what they looked like? And even then, I'm backing up a little bit because I'm going to be quiet now and be a good ally and just listen for a little bit.
Tone policing thing, I get tone policed all the time by white people. It's all the time because they'll say to me, because I'm very direct when I call out racism. I don't think I'm rude, but I am very direct. And so I've had people say to me, well, if you were nicer, I would be an ally. Dang it. When I know full well they would never be an ally. That's just a complete lie. One thing that I always say too is if someone says something that's really an ugly racist comment, why on earth do I have to be nice to you about it? I'm probably not going to be very nice about it. I might have some expletives in there or whatever, but this is the thing. You have to ignore my anger and you have to look at the message.
I have to ignore your anger and look at the message. If you were nicer, I might be an ally, but I know that they're lying. Okay. If I hold an envelope in front of our speaker, and it has 3 words written on it, you think she'll be able to tell what's inside that envelope? Get out the old Johnny Carson Karnak act here. You know what people are thinking. You know what their true intentions are. You can see the future and alternate realities. You're practically Doctor Strange with the Time Stone. Okay.
You know, your job, again, is to listen and learn.
Your job is to listen. Don't speak, don't think, don't resist, don't question, listen and learn. I know everything. Everything I say is gospel, and do not question the dear leader.
If you're tone policing, you already decided that whatever I'm saying doesn't matter. Do not tone police other white people who come to you and say, I can't believe you said that. That was awful. You are a racist. Like, just, they don't have to be nice about it either. You know, racism, when you're having those discussions, you have to be really blunt a lot of times.
Oh.
And sometimes it is where you're just angry. You know, sometimes it's just a terrible comment. I've had people call me the N-word. Of course, I'm not going to be nice about it. But people who are just like, you call them out in a very direct way. Like if you say, well, you know, what you said was really racist. And they say,
No. Okay, so somebody using an actual racial slur against you is a completely separate situation. You're talking about microaggressions. You're talking about self-chosen interpretation of someone else's words and or actions that you've decided are racist, offensive, whatever. Okay, if you're not going to distinguish between those two, you keep vacillating back and forth between what we're talking about here. But it's all one thing, huh? It's all one thing. A microaggression is as bad as the N-word. Is that it? That's kind of what I'm getting here. But oh, I'm sorry. I'm just listening. I'm talking too much.
Of course, I'm not going to be nice about it. But people who are just like, you call them out in a very direct way. Like if you say, well, you know, what you said was really racist. And they say, well, why are you mean? Why are you mean? Why are you being mean to me? Not being mean. You know, you have to be just really blunt and direct, because I realize as long as I've done this work that if I'm not direct, people will figure out how to kind of go behind what I'm saying and make a lot of excuses about it, and then basically say, well, I don't really think it was that bad. It was, you know, I apologize. It wasn't that bad, you know, but they're not going to learn anything from it either. And that's a problem.
Okay, so no one can ever leave behind anything that you've deemed as a violation. Anything that you've decided is a crime has to be accepted, acknowledged, quote-unquote, learned from, and they can't get away from it. All sins are permanent stains. Okay.
Do not apologize right away. I know that sounds kind of weird, but if you've said something racist and you really don't understand the impact of what you did, why would you apologize in that moment?
If I said something racist, but I don't understand the impact of what I did. Okay. So if I'm making an intentional effort to offend you by saying something that is actually racist, well then I think I would have a pretty good understanding of what I did and the effect I was going for. So if you find yourself in a situation where you are told what you said was racist and you have to stop and think about how that could be, it's entirely possible that whatever the interpretation was on the part of the other person, that what was done and the motivation behind it wasn't actually racist. You know? Entirely possible. Think about that one. Thank you, Keldrig. I'm not condoning shouting racial slurs at people, but if that happened, has she considered that she just really pissed that person off? Maybe it's her fault for being so obnoxious. It seems as though our speaker has very little practice or very little motivation to practice self-reflection or self-reflective practices. Practice. We looked at self-reflective practices in a previous episode of the Sunday stream, I think. But no, she doesn't even know if she's rude. Am I rude? I don't know. Anyway, she moves on. Yeah. She can't interrogate why someone might feel that they are justified in being angry or being dismissive or anything else. She is right. The interpretation that she has come up with is the correct one, And anything outside of that is dismissive, not learning, not being a good ally. If you don't agree with me, you are an opponent. That's what I'm getting so far, but continue.
What you can say is, I hear you. I hear that I hurt you. I understand that I misstepped. Let me talk to my accountability partner and figure out how I can work through this.
Yes, always capitulate. Your first move as a white ally is to capitulate to any accusation of wrongdoing. Do not defend. Do not seek clarity. Do not ask questions. Just defer to the judgment you have been handed. Step back. Go and counsel with your other, like-minded, white-minded individuals, and then come back and find the best way to seek forgiveness from the person who has decided to be offended. Okay.
I'm going to come back and talk to you about it, and I will apologize and explain.
Okay, is a promise to apologize all that much different than an actual apology? I mean, I suppose if you don't fulfill that promise, but if you're already giving the person you've been told you've offended some kind of penance, okay. How much do I mean, how low do I have to bow when presenting this apology for it to be an actual apology? Right? Is there a particular title I have to introduce myself to you with before I apologize, like your Royal Highness or something? I mean, what does a formalized apology look like in this instance? What is an acceptable apology? Would you accept that apology if it was given to you? Because it sure sounds like anybody who steps out of line can never let that misstep be forgotten. Right? Or you will not let it be forgotten. So people apologize, but do you forgive? I guess that's my. Oh wait, I'm asking questions. Sorry.
Apology is just a cop out. It's like you just want to shut the conversation down.
An apology is just a cop out. Okay, so I have to, until there's a pause between the offense and the apology is not legitimate. If you say, you hurt my feelings, which is all what this is, and I say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, that's a cop-out. Okay. I'm getting the sense that you are just a riot at parties.
So don't worry about apologizing in that moment. I love this picture. Step 5. So this is when you're going to start talking to people and having those really uncomfortable conversations. So this is my favorite part. Okay. So who are you going to talk to? Not your Uncle Bob, who's been a racist his entire life. He's probably a member of the KKK. Like, he's not going to change, right?
Uncle Bob, the lifelong member of the KKK. Do you know how many people are actually active members of the KKK in this country right now? Okay. It is estimated that actual card-carrying, I'm a member, etc., range anywhere from 5 to 10,000, and not much more, if that at all. But okay, Uncle Bob, the dyed-in-the-wool KKK member. Stay away from your family. Disconnect from your family. You cannot speak to your family on these matters. You need to de-foo yourself. They're suppressive persons. Stay away from those SPs.
So I always tell people, find the people who you already know are going to be kind of receptive. Because
yeah, find your like-minded echo chamber individuals. What are we talking about again? Oh yeah, but nobody who's a card-carrying KKK member. That probably, I'll concede that's probably not the most productive person to discuss issues of race and racism with. It probably not, unless you're trying to change their minds. Which is not necessarily a worthless endeavor, but okay.
Because you want to get some wins in there, or at least some half wins or something. Otherwise you're going to be just so upset from like day one. I'm not saying that you're not going to talk to Uncle Bob, because you will. But Uncle Bob probably isn't going to change. So you're going to be an instigator instead of an educator.
That's a bad thing, being an instigator, right? Except when you overhear a conversation between a black person and a white person and you've decided that you need to intervene because you've heard something that you've decided is off, and obviously the black person can't defend themselves. So, well, I guess that's an educational position. That's not an instigation position. Okay.
Anytime he says something, you just shut it down. Uncle Bob, you're racist. I don't want to hear it. My kid's not coming around you ever if you're like this. You have to give them consequences too. So it's really, really important that you find somebody in those the first steps that when you have these conversations, find somebody who's fairly open to what you're saying.
What if someone said to you, hey, telling people to ignore becoming customers to businesses on the basis of the skin color of the owner is racist? Isn't that kind of a racist thing for you to be promoting? I wonder what our speaker would say to that. I wonder how she would respond to that notion. Or I should first and foremost assess who I'm going to vote for in a election on the basis of their race and or gender before I consider anything else. I wonder what our speaker would say to that.
Maybe they're just problematic in that they stereotype black people. Just that one's workable. Like you can have documentation and have them, read things, and you may need to push them a little bit to where they're not as bad.
Yeah, stereotyping black people wherein you can't join organizations that have white people running them because that person wouldn't be able to tell your story. Yeah, stereotyping is bad.
Also keep in mind that it's never going to be one conversation. I always find that people were like, well, I talked to them and it didn't change. I don't know what to do. I give up. You can't give up. It's going to be multiple conversations.
Why do I have to? Right, okay, if Uncle Bob, the KKK member, the card-carrying KKK member, if he's going to be that way, why should I waste my time? He is a significant minority, given the descriptors you've given. And it's not worth it. Short of Uncle Bob committing actual crimes or something, if he thinks a way that I find detestable, but has otherwise got nothing else going on and he's just doing his thing, why should I waste my time trying to change his mind? If I really care about Uncle Bob, right, and I see that his way of thinking is holding him back or doing something else, and I want to make the effort, I can, but if I don't want to, why do I have to? Same thing with trying to change somebody's mind about their political position on something. Having a rigorous debate over something for the benefit of the audience, perhaps, even if you know that the other person is intractable in their beliefs, you're not going to change them, but maybe there's some benefit to be had in having the conversation, an actual conversation. Sure. That's how I see most debates. I don't see debates as one person trying to change the mind of the other person. I see the benefit in just having two sides come together and dole out their ideas and see what falls out of it. And see what might be gained from somebody listening to it who hasn't heard another opinion, or maybe hasn't heard an opinion from their own side of the argument but from a different direction. But why do I have to? Why is it necessary? Why can't I just behave in a way that I want others to behave and act as a role model for those around me and not intervene on someone else's life that is effectively meaningless in the grand scheme of things? Why?
That's what the work is. If I'm having a conversation with you and you're not understanding what I'm saying, then at that point, I'm going to bring you something to read, give you some homework on something to watch. I'll probably watch it with you. We'll talk about it, and we'll keep having the conversations. One thing that I also tell people who are the person trying to educate the other person is,
yeah, if I'm saying something, you're not understanding what I'm saying, you're the one that's flawed, you need more education. It's not that what I'm having to say might be incomprehensible or nonsense. No. You're obviously in the wrong for not understanding me. So I'm going to just pile on you more literature and more propaganda until you see things the way I see them. You're not going to entertain the possibility that you could have a flaw in your argumentation. You couldn't entertain the possibility that the other person might have something to contribute to you. No, they are wrong, you are right, and you've got all this stuff backing you up. that you will sit down and treat them like a child and educate them. Because they're obviously uneducated. And you are a master. Or something.
So tell people who are the person trying to educate the other person is, like I said previously, draw on where you screwed up and tell them, look, I had a problem with this too. Let me tell you how I kind of worked through it. Because if you're coming to this person as if, well, I already know everything, so I'm going to teach you everything that I know. And you're coming off like you have never made a mistake.
Yeah, you're not doing that at all right now. It's do you have any self-awareness? Any self-awareness right now? Backing up just a smidge.
Draw on where you screwed up and tell them, look, I had a problem with this too. Let me tell you how I kind of worked through it. Because if you're coming to this person as if, well, I already know everything, so I'm going to teach you everything that I know. And you're coming off like you have never made a mistake. You are not an ally. That's not how allies behave. You know, people that I know who've done this work for 30 and 40 years can recite all their mistakes to you, and they'll tell you all of them. And they'll say, I tell you this because I want you to understand how far I've come and how far I still need to go. You know, so that's why I say in my book, keep a journal of all your encounters and thoughts and all of that, because you'll be surprised after like a year where you are versus where you started. And that journal is going to be a really great thing to share with someone else who's starting their ally journey.
Yeah, no, I would be decidedly surprised, or perhaps not, to see the evolution or de-evolution, depending, of someone who starts out not being a white ally and going through this process of self-vilification, this process of total and absolute servitude to the ideas and whims of others because I'm told that I'm wrong. I'm told I'm in need of education because of my skin color. That I'm inherently assumed to be both incorrect and flawed, but also inherently empowered to do good because of my skin color. Yeah. I'm always right. Not a good attitude to have if you want to be a good ally. Okay. All right. Well, continue.
So I think I touched on this a little bit, but just acknowledge that having that conversation is difficult. Again, draw from how you felt when people started to educate you about racism and how you've been racist and how you've been complicit.
Educate, not accuse. Educate about how you've been racist and complicit. What does that photograph have to do with anything you've been talking about? By the way, I'm just wondering what that visual aid is up there for. You haven't referred to it. You haven't given any context to it. Are you going to? Are you going to relate it somehow? But either way, yes. Being told you're racist, being told you're complicit. And what signifies that? I wonder.
It's just a hard conversation. It's emotional. Somebody might cry. It might be you who cries when you're educating. You know, it's okay. But just work through that and just acknowledge that it's just, you know, these are hard talks. You know, it's nothing fun about talking about racism. You know, somebody might get angry with you. But if you're having the conversation with somebody that you love, you're doing it because you love them.
Oh, I'm having the conversation with someone I love because I love them. So if I tell someone that they're being racist, if I tell someone they're complicit in racism because of something that they've said that I've decided was wrong, I'm doing that out of love. I'm not doing it out of a weird kind of sadism. I'm not doing it because I need to feel righteous by pointing out what I've decided is a flaw in you and gain pleasure and satisfaction from it. No, I'm not participating in ideological sadism. No. I'm doing it out of love. I do this because I love you. It's tough love, but I'm doing it because I love you. I swear, if you take these bits and pieces of what she's talking about and place them in just a completely separate organization, does sound a little cultish, doesn't it?
And you have to tell them that's like, I want you to be a better person. I don't want you to be the way that you are. I love you enough to talk to you about this.
Yeah, I want you to be a better person who polices everyone's language, steps in on conversations because you know one person is in the weaker position on the basis of their skin color, and also feel bad about yourself and pause to apologize over anything that you've been told is a wrong action and craft an appropriate apology for the person you've obviously offended. What a life this is. What a work this is.
I have friends who...
You do? I'm shocked.
Have basically told relatives, especially if they have kids, you can't be around my kids anymore. Or if you are, I'm going to make sure that you don't say the things that you say, and I'll say in front of my kids, Grandpa's being racist. You know, you have to have a consequence. That's how your kids are going to learn from the people that you think are older and kind of harmless. If they're saying things, your kid's going to pick that up.
Or you could rely better on your being a good role model for your kids, and if your kids have questions about what Grandpa said, you can explain to them the context of why Grandpa said what he said. You could make it an actual educational moment. You know, indulge in your children's curiosity over why what Grandpa says is so different from what you teach in your household. And just say, well, there are people out there that think this way, and it may be as a result of the time they grew up in or the culture that they grew up in and everything else, but it's inherently incorrect in a way to assess people. And speak to your children calmly about it. You know, like a grown-up. But I don't know. I get every family's different, every situation's different. But how about you just be the change you want to see and be that role model for your children? Maybe. And not, you know, immediately vilify somebody because of their race or diminish somebody because of their race, you know, or elevate someone because of their race, maybe something like that. So you're not acting like Grandpa, but just with the kinds of skin colors you prefer, which is exactly what this entire talk has been so far. Because honestly, again, you switch around a few vocabulary words here and our speaker might as well be Grandpa.
I mentioned this earlier too, set realistic goals is going to be several conversations.
Why do you keep looking, okay, I know where that picture's from, but why do you keep pointing to that picture and not give some kind of reference? Why aren't you connecting whatever's going on there with your talk? What you keep pointing to it. Unless I mean, is there some kind of like list that I'm not seeing because it's all blurred out, or I don't know.
You know, don't burn yourself out. It doesn't be back-to-back conversations, but have one conversation, give them some stuff to read, go to a museum with them, watch a documentary with them, talk about that, take a break, come back and talk to them some more. You know, you don't want to have it back to back to back because they're going to be exhausted and you're going to be exhausted. And if we're talking about a lifetime commitment, you're not going to make it if you're burning yourself out. So I want you to just kind of pace yourself. You'll never run out of people to talk to.
Wait. I'm not supposed to, wait. If I tell you I'm tired, I want to take a break, I want to hang out with my friends and family, I'm not allowed to do that. It's a lifetime commitment. And if you think you're tired, just think how tired I am being what I am. So is burnout even allowed? What's the cure for burnout? Taking a break. But you just told us earlier that taking a break is not allowed. Or it's somehow a sign of, a lack of morality or something. Or a lack of dedication. Boy.
And again, use your own experiences because this is how you're going to make real change. If you're telling people the ways that you have grown or the ways that you've kind of fallen a little bit, you're going to be relating to them on a level that is really, really important. And you want to be on their level. You don't want to be like, I'm coming at this as this really amazing ally and you're down here. No, you're really on the same level because even if you're someone who's progressed a long way, there's possible as a white person, you will start falling back into your old ways if you're not constantly working on it.
Yeah, you must constantly fight back against your inherent white instincts. Because that's how people work, you know. Yes, how far I've advanced where I have to stay within my affinity group to counsel on any decision I might make or any interaction I may have had with a person who's not white on the chance that what I might have said is racist, and have a personal police partner to keep me in line over things I may or may not say, think, or do, on the assumption that I can know the mind, the temperament, the feelings, and the desires of someone else on the basis of their skin color. Wow, how far you would have advanced in that whole process.
Step 6, white privilege. I've had this talk a lot. Doesn't ever go well.
Oh, why doesn't it ever go well? White privilege. Do tell. Nervous laughter from the gallery. Here's where we get told how inherently privileged we are, and how white power actually exists, and we have to feel guilty for our skin color.
Always ugly conversation. So the definition: the unearned, mostly unacknowledged social advantage white people have over other racial groups simply because they are whites. Yeah. Okay. So I've lost count how many times I've talked to white people about white privilege, and I would say more than half of them will tell me there's no way I have it.
More than half of them tell them there's no way I have it. Okay, so all of those people are obviously either lying or just completely ignorant of reality. Right? Okay. So the homeless guy on the street, if you had that conversation with him and he says, I don't have it, obviously he's lying or just oblivious to the reality of the situation. Right? Somebody who's had to work their entire life just scraping by in some blue-collar job, barely afford to send their kid to college, they've still got it. Right? Okay.
There's no way. I grew up poor. I hear that. I grew up poor. I was middle class. My parents didn't help me. I don't have privilege. Just means they don't understand what it means.
Right. They don't understand what it means. Is that society did not come down and bestow upon them all the advantages they could possibly have. They too experienced hardship in life, had to work for a living, didn't have a great relationship with their family, wasn't handed everything. But still, you have to demonize them. You have to diminish them on the basis of their skin color. You have to diminish and demean their own lived experiences on the basis of their skin color. I wonder what you would have to say to someone who did that to you. Your hardships weren't really hardships. Your successes weren't really successes. Obviously, all of those things are muted because of your skin. How would you feel about someone saying that to you about any of your accomplishments in life, or the importance of any of your failures or struggles? What would you say to that person who decided to classify you or denigrate you in that way? I really have to wonder. Okay, but go on.
Then when you explain it to them, it's still kind of like, I don't think so. And I think the reason that they fight it so hard is because they don't want to believe that anything that they got, they didn't actually earn.
Yet you know that anything that they got, they didn't actually earn. You know this because of their skin color. You already know and can already assess the quality and legitimacy of their life struggles or achievements because of their skin color. Are you listening to yourself?
So it's a hard thing to acknowledge, but it's not like the research isn't there. The research is right in front of you that yes, even if you were dirt poor, you could walk out of a building right now and your white skin would allow you to feel safer than me. And I've had these talks multiple times. I expect you all to have those talks. They don't go well, but I also think that the more you have the conversation with people, the more they kind of recognize this isn't a ding on being white.
Oh man. No, there's really only one response. There's really only one response to that. That was absolute comedy right there. Absolute comedy. This is not a ding on being white. Let me tell you about your white privilege. Everybody I've ever spoken to about this, half of them deny it, even though I know that they're wrong, because they're white. This isn't a ding on being white. This is just me saying that if you're white, anything that you've gained in life or anything that you've lost is not really as bad as anything that I've gained or lost because you're white. Just... Oh, Lordy.
It is just history in this country. It's just history, you know, and the fact that you were born white, you were born with this unearned privilege, it's not something that I'm saying, well, that makes you a bad white person. No, it's just a fact.
Right, it's just a fact. It's just a fact that any complaint you have isn't a real complaint. It's just a fact that any accomplishment you've made isn't a real accomplishment. That's all. Your entire life is a lie because you're white, but I'm not saying you're bad. I'm not saying it's a flaw. I'm just saying that you are a lesser type of person than I am. You are a less legitimate individual in all things that you've experienced because you're white. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
So that's why I say all the ways you can use your white privilege for good, that is how you pay us back.
Pay you back. Pay you back. What do I owe you? I wonder.
You know, you're going to use it for good. You're going to speak up. You're going to stand up. One thing that I had a couple of allies I work with do that I think is amazing is anytime they see a Black person pull over by a car, they stop and they watch and they film. And I think that that's really amazing.
You think that's really amazing? Okay.
So think about the ways you can use your privilege. One thing I talk about in my book too that I don't think white people think about is.
Oh! This is something. Okay, I can't wait for this. Okay, we might wrap up on this because we're getting close to the 1.5 hour mark. Okay, so something you don't think white people think about because they're white. Okay, I'm ready for this. What is something that is partitioned from the minds of people based on their skin color?
Going to stores like CVS for me and looking for pantyhose that match my skin tone.
So, Peggy McIntosh's invisible knapsack, the Band-Aid argument. Except instead of Band-Aids now, it's pantyhose. Pantyhose that match my skin tone. Other than Band-Aids that match my skin tone. Okay, this is something that white people just don't think about. Yeah. Okay, well, maybe it's because if I put a Band-Aid on, or I'm wearing a pair of pantyhose, which I don't, but if I did, maybe I wouldn't care that much. And of course, pantyhose don't come in a variety of shades or anything. Like, am I... Okay, admittedly, I have not dealt with the purchasing of pantyhose all that often, but I have walked by those aisles before. Am I wrong in remembering that there is like a little row and they have them set up from different, skin tones? Or from, darker to lighter skin, that kind of thing. You just pick the one that you like. I mean, I guess it depends on what store you're going to and what selection they have, but that's really the foremost thing on your mind. You go into a CVS and you say, I have to think about this. I have to think about finding pantyhose that match my skin tone. No white person would ever have to think about this. Okay.
Didn't happen. You get some black ones and just hope for the best. You're not going to get my skin tone. Bandages.
You see? Hey, Peggy McIntosh, invisible knapsack, Band-Aids. Uh-huh.
They're just now coming up with bandages that are like this color, which is, very strange.
Why would you want an injury to be covert? If you have to have a Band-Aid on, what? They don't make Band-Aids in my skin tone. I'll tell you that right now. As pale as a ghost as I am, they don't make Band-Aids that are invisible when I put them on my skin. How do I live with the shame of that?
So all those things that we don't think about, your white skin is the default for a lot of things, But I want you to be able to speak up. There's exercise I use in my book, and think about the next time you go to Walgreens or CVS or some other drugstore, go to like the bandage aisle and see what you see. Go to the pantyhose aisle and see that there's like literally a bunch of fleshy color and there's black.
Okay, I'm going to end there on the terrible, terrible first world problem of pantyhose and Band-Aids. Because I think that's in the territory of jumping the shark. When you have to refer back to invisible knapsack territory for your arguments, I think you might have lost the plot. Not that there wasn't already plenty of loss to be had here. And just for the next couple minutes at least, have a little accompanying music in the background. There we go. As we work to close out. Now look at a few comments from you guys, and I was very focused on the thing. I was trying to listen more, not talk as much. Bridget, I just use funky pattern bandages. I wore for like a day a Finding Nemo Band-Aid because that's all my friend had at her house because she was raising 2 kids, and I cut my finger on something, I needed a Band-Aid, and all I had was Finding Nemo. So I wore a Finding Nemo Band-Aid on my finger. And I remember this because the little girls are making fun of me for having a Finding Nemo. They thought it was silly. They thought it looked funny. And I laughed with them because it was funny, but it was also just a Band-Aid. It was serving a function, and I didn't really care. And I wasn't so uptight about everything that I had to have a Band-Aid that was in my skin tone. Like, oh no. No name, completely untrue. Band-Aids are made in all colors. The nurse at the school I work at keeps all tones. Do you know why Band-Aids in food preparation places are classically, not always, but classically blue? You know why that is? Or why it should be, more or less? Because if you're wearing a Band-Aid and preparing food, and your Band-Aid that is like, taupe colored or something falls within a food deal, it might be difficult to find. But if it's blue, you at least know that it's in there and that soup or whatever has been contaminated, and you can like get it out of there and also dump the food. So, you haven't lost a Band-Aid in there and serve a Band-Aid up to a customer. Presumably, hopefully. I'm sure it does happen. Arc210, a napkin and electrical tape make the best Band-Aids anyway. Okay, MacGyver. Whatever you have to say. Whatever you have to say. Spud gun, blue with a metal strip in it. Oh, is it a metal strip too? Okay. Does that help? So like you can magnetize it or something? Something like that. Let's see. What else we got here? Spittle buggies. White men are most likely to be fired for racism or sexual harassment, even under the circumstances of proven if it didn't happen, for the comfort of other employees she's baiting. Well, yeah, most of this is just... It really is amazing to listen to somebody essentially just... It's like a TEDx talk where someone is essentially just spewing out their own internal mental world onto a stage in front of an audience. And the most telling bit, and I know I dwelled on this a little bit, the most telling point when she was being self-referential to her own attitude, people telling her that she's rude, and she stops for a very brief moment and asks to the ether, "Am I rude?" Anyway, moves on. That, more than anything else in here, tells me a lot about our speaker's, perspective on herself. And how her default position is, I am not wrong. The default position is, I am in the right, and anybody who accuses me otherwise is obviously suspect. And this is a lesson that every grown adult, I hope, would learn in life, just in life in general, is to allow for the possibility you might be wrong. Not to dwell on it, not to second guess yourself into oblivion all the time, but if someone comes up to you and says, hey, you might be a little blah, to at least consider it. Now, you could say, well, that's exactly what she's saying, right? As far as microaggressions. Like, what you said was da-da-da-da-da. Okay. But there's a difference. There's a difference in knowing yourself, knowing your intention, and not just accepting somebody else's criticism at face value without consideration. Right? You give it some consideration. And you be honest with yourself. And then you decide what's the other person's motivation in doing that. I mean, obviously the motivation here is to quote-unquote educate. Right? It's to vilify. It's to diminish somebody else. Now, there is a difference between constructive criticism and someone just trying to, get under your skin, so to speak. But, our speaker is an unreliable narrator because she's already shown that she has a reluctance at best, or an inability at worst, to consider the possibility that she might be wrong. Also, the whole contradictory nature of complaining about racial stereotypes but then telling us that we really should pay attention to the stories of black people because they're her story too, somehow. Anyway. Let's see, who else is... Mike Savage, since when do pantyhose come in skin color for white women? I mean, there are white pantyhose out there, right? Like stocking type stuff. I don't know. Usually, oftentimes I don't even notice a woman's wearing pantyhose. It's just, I don't know. I guess I'm not much of a leg man or something. Or maybe I just don't go out very often. Actually, that's that latter one. That's probably true. I don't get out much. Not anymore. I don't emerge from my cave. Ebony Williams, I'm back, if only for a little bit. Well, hi, Ebony. I hope you're still back. I'm kind of going up in the comments here. Let's see. Anybody else? Standard athlete. I am never wrong except for when I am incorrect. No. Show feet. I don't know how else to wrap up a show more effectively than that. Show feet. Show feet. Anyway, everyone, we're at the bottom of the hour, and thus the end of the show. So I'm going to call it here. Thank you for joining me for this book report on how to be a white ally. The White Allies Handbook. Apologies. Let me make sure I get that title right. I want to best advertise as possible. 4 weeks to join the racial justice fight for black women by Alicia Michelle. It was published in July of this year. This talk was given, I think, within the last few days. And there you go. I don't feel the need for a part 2. I don't feel the need to continue with this. I think we've heard all the best bits we're going to get out of this one. So there you go. If you'd like to hear more from me, the next time I am scheduled to appear on a live stream would be next Thursday morning for my She-Hulk Episode 5 review. Will be sometime in the range of 8 a.m.-ish, maybe 8:30. It depends on the timing of things, but keep an eye on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. You can see my Twitter there at the bottom of the screen for such announcements. Also, for certain, next Thursday, same Thursday, at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, TED Excellence, where I'll go over yet another off-brand TED Talk for, what shall I say today? Enlightenment and bewilderment. I call it belightment. No? Okay, well, I tried. Either way, everyone, thank you guys so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everybody who donated, either to myself or to the GoFundMe's pinned to the top of the chat box, thank you guys so much for your generosity. Really do appreciate it. A reminder that if there is a content creator out there that you like and appreciate their work, be sure to share their stuff, like their stuff, let people know you like it, whether it's me or anybody else. And when you do so, if you have the ability to notify that person when you do share that stuff, please do so, because I know they appreciate it, and I know I do, and I will make every effort to thank you personally when you do. But with that, everybody, have a great rest of your Sunday, have a great rest of your weekend. Hope you have a good week ahead of you. I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.